Live from New York City. Sorry, wrong show.
Terrible.
Welcome to Nerds on Hip Hop. This podcast is about the intersection of nerd, hip hop, and nerd life. P. Diddy, Castlevania, My Little Witch Academia, My Hero Academia, Old Dirty Bastard are all fair game. And if you know any of these names, welcome.
Welcome indeed. There are 4 main parts in the show. We first review our weeks in nerddom and hip-hopdom. Then we explore a theme through our hip-hop and nerd influences. At the end, we ask ourselves a question, and then we open up to your questions.
Welcome officially to Nerds on Hip Hop, and with great microphone quality, we're live from New York City. Sorry.
Yay!
Yes, you know, when I get to visit, we record.
Exactly. And who are you?
I am the Wolf's Den, and I'm joined by the greatest ever.
Woohoo! That's me. I am Victoria, aka Miss Old School.
AKA I write for Complex, AKA I write for Vibe, AKA I write for
Only a
Comic
few.
Book Resources, AKA I wrote for Comics Alliance.
Only a few articles. Climbing up there. Pretty hype.
She's the
Coming
GOAT.
along.
She's the GOAT. She has the ram head.
I'm not a PhD candidate, though, so
All
we're
on-
both pretty goats.
So, we're going to jump straight into our week in nerddom.
Yay! So what'd you do?
I've been playing Bravely Second.
Ooh.
I think a year ago on this podcast I talked about picking up Bravely
I
Second.
think so, yeah.
But, you know, life gets in the way of playing video games. That doctoral candidacy.
That's a thing.
But I've been enjoying it this summer. And it's not exactly what I expected. Because I love the first one. I think I told you, like, the first one is, like, top 10 favorite games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember playing, just when I first started the game, for like the first 3-4 hours in, I was like, I do not remember this game being this chatty. Like, these guys are, like, what makes these games charming is that they have a little bit of, they don't have a high budget, so it's like very minimal approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we go straight to basics, like, we're going to give you, it's like the old Final Fantasy. It's like, you got 4 crystals, you got job classes,
Right.
it's really old school, but they add some, like, innovations in gameplay.
Okay.
And that's really what makes it special. Like, the job system is strong and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And the story can be charming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's one major issue in the first game, but, like, the minute I say that, people are like, yes, that's what... But beyond that, I think for most people, there's a lot of appreciation for what that game brought. Especially during an era where Square Enix was kind of weird because people don't really like Final Fantasy 13 that much.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
So Bravely was, like, a back to basics to prove that they can do...
They still do it.
Yeah.
They still got it.
Right. And I was like, the game doesn't take itself seriously. So there's a lot of jokes and so forth. But I don't remember them talking that much. I remember for the first 3 hours of the game, I'm like, I don't remember this. And it bothered me for a bit.
Have you gone back to the first game since then?
I haven't. I don't time's not in my favor. But after about 4 hours, I was just like, this is charming as ever. Like, I find myself laughing at the scenarios that are going on, or even just like the dialogue is not witty; it's just silly. Like, you know how you've been trying to egg me on to watch Kobayashi,
It's Kobayashi's Dragon Maid!
and that it.
Yeah.
We watched, I think, two episodes the other day, and
We did.
there's one of the scenes that you liked on with Kana, but like
Oh.
she's like
Fighting Kobayashi. And
I
then,
mean,
like, in 2 seconds, she loses her breath.
Right.
And she's like...
Right, like, it's that,
Die!
it's that, right, it's that kind of level of levity that happens,
Right.
like, it's like, go for the gravy, like, it's really, and so the main character is this guy who's like, so you end up building up a big of your old party from the previous game, but you have one new guy and one new girl, and the guy's like, oh my gosh, it's the legend, and then the guy's just like, I'm just a person. And it's like, it's been kind of interesting to have like someone just like to have a back and forth between like these guys are heroes of legend, and the guy's just like, no, I'm just a person. It's like, it's not that serious. Exactly. So Tiz is always
funny.
like that. It's charming in that sense, and I think what was funny is that they have cool side quests. So they have this side quest system that they tied to their job system, where that there's this issue in the game where, like, whatever is like a story issue, a bunch of guys from the previous game that you fought before, like, you're like 3 years later, and they're like changing their lives, trying to be different, and you kind of, there usually becomes some kind of incident that causes them to go against one another, and then whoever you side with, you fight the other person and you get their job.
Ooh.
So it's kind of so it's cool that it's like you tie like a moral dilemma. I mean, you put that against whatever actual job you want.
Right.
And
can you have 2 jobs?
I hear that you can get the jobs later in the game, but for like the first like 3 chapters, you won't get access to that other job. So it's like a big deal.
Okay.
And I remember the first decision they have you is that you're in the middle of the desert there, and the old bandit of that desert ended up turning into this person who's like trying to give out water resources and take care of the people. Like he's a changed man. Yeah. And you're like, wow, this is interesting. Like he's a different person. And you're like, man, and he's a thief. So so I'm compelled to side with him because you're like, oh. And then on the flip side, there's this like super womanizer person. Like he was a womanizer in the game that was like almost Crosby creepy-ish. And so it's like that's in the back of your mind, but he's also made a new leaf about his life and how he lives out his life. Okay. So he's now like a professor at the school. He's doing this major research. White privilege. He's a red mage, so if it's red mage privilege. So he's doing all of these things, and the research actually has the potential impact to be like a new resource that would change how people do energy in that world. So he's like, I gotta use this thing in the desert, and so he wants this thing in the desert that could be significant to like changing the way that the world operates, while the other guy wants this thing in the desert because it'd give him more access to water. Okay. And it's also a question like, do you want the red mage job? Do you want the thief job? So it's like you have this moral dilemma on top of this like gameplay dilemma. Yeah. I think that's an excellent concept. And for what I ended up choosing, I wanted a thief thing, even though I sided with him internally. Thief.
That sounds funner.
Right. That's exactly what happens. Like, I want the thief job. I felt like he's the one who I believed more about changing his life. Okay. Than the red mage dude. The
Cosby dude.
Right. I
already don't like him.
But I ended up siding with him because I wanted the thief job. Okay. And what was funny, and this is why I was like, wow, y'all took it like they were able to, like, this game that's not taking itself seriously is very gameplay first. Was the thing that it tells me afterwards, the characters are just like, yeah, you know that we made the community around this university made a sacrifice for you. You cannot waste. And I was like, what is this? I was like, okay.
Just to get to new levels.
I was like, okay, Square Enix talking about the way that universities can take advantage of it. It's like, I live in Baltimore and I know around Hopkins. I go to Morgan. I know what it's like to have universities and how that could like affect communities and that you have to respect the community. And you can't take, like, whatever you do, you can't take for granted for what they do for you. And I was like, okay, talk about sociological importance of, like... then. So that was my experience. Yeah. What about for you?
So for me, I finally got a chance to watch Card Captors. I'm very, very, very late to the game. We ended up watching a few episodes over the weekend, and the first 2 episodes. Yeah. And it was interesting. Don't you say it's better than Sailor Moon. I know you don't go to the mic with that nonsense. I see what you're trying to do.
It's true.
It's not true. So anyway.
It's a more elegant episode. Keep going.
Whatever. Anyway. So it was interesting to see kind of like how Sakura comes to be a card capture is very different from Sailor Moon, where like instead of Luna finding Sailor Moon and kind of like needing her to like be the Sailor Guardian because the planet's under attack, it's kind of the opposite, where she finds this book and then she accidentally lets out the cards, and then the Guardian comes out and it's like, oh wait, you did that? Guess you're gonna have to go find him now. Like, congratulations. I know you're like, what is she, like 10?
She's a 4th grader.
She's a 4th grader, yeah, so she's not even 10 yet. She's like 8. I don't know ages. And it's like, you got a new job. want to travel the world. And it was interesting. I think the most fascinating concept from card captors that I saw was the idea, because at first I was a little disappointed with the villain, because it's just like this huge kind of like swan, maybe?
Right.
And it's just like all white, like it's just like very generic, like super generic, like no colors, and I'm just like, okay, like I guess this is how that's gonna be. But then, so it was the fly card, and I thought it was cool because once she captured it, she's able to use the power of fly. And that was pretty dope, because before she had the card, the wind card, and she was able to use that, and I was like, okay, so wait, is this a good card, and this one's just a bad card, or what are the rules? And when I saw that, I thought that was pretty cool. So now she has the power of wind and flight, and that's pretty dope. And just to see, like, her kind of hesitance towards it also is interesting, like, very parallel to Sailor Moon to me.
Except she's, like, way more willing to do the work.
Anyway. I mean, who would, though? Maybe because she's young, right? I feel like Sam has slightly more wisdom to be like, nah, B, I ain't trying to get killed. Also, Sailor Moon's villains are a lot scarier. Like, when you see the person who was, like, draining energy from, like, Molly and everybody.
Hold on, let's talk about the size difference. That swan was gigantic. That's, like, 5 different planes combined together. And she decides, I'm going to ride up with my roller blades and then jump on. Like, come on, that's real courage there.
That's true. That was pretty ballsy. That is true. That was really smart, too.
Exactly. So trying to tell me about wisdom. Scared of a person like that just barely taller than your mother.
That was really scary. That lady, her face still scares me. Like, the way she transforms from the mother to, like, the zombie lady in Sailor Moon we're talking about. The first villain. I think her name... Is it Morgana?
Probably.
I think it's Morgana. Yeah, but yeah, to go up against that, and then I think too, like, one with the monster, like, it's just kind of like doing like property damage and kind of like making cracks in the sidewalk. Where this was like in Sailor Moon, they're draining the energy from people and like damn near killing them, and like she's about to like kill Molly or like drain all of her energy, and it's just like, this is scary. Like, this is a lot to process at 14 years old.
I think that's probably one of the things that seems very different. Like, one is more of a force of nature problem versus like Sailor Moon, at least for the first 8 or so episodes, tries to do this like sociological issue.
Yeah, that's true. But I will say for card captors, I would part of me wishes that I got into it when I was younger, because I think I could have had quite a good connection with it, because even though Sailor Moon or Serena is 14, there is a sense that she feels a little bit older sometimes. Like, I would have guessed probably 16 when I was younger, where Sakura actually feels like a 4th grader. Like, she feels very young.
Does she feel younger than a hero?
No, she feels older than a hero.
She does.
She does. Which is funny, because she's younger.
I think they're roughly the same age.
I thought a hero was like 12.
Is she?
I think so. Maybe not.
We have to do research on that.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I think she definitely... But I think a hero just has, like... She's super naive. She's just too, like, happy-go-lucky. And at least Sakura kind of seemed a little bit jaded. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, what are you talking about? This is crazy.
It's like, right, I think she tells Kuribo, it's like, weren't you supposed to be guarding this book?
Right, exactly.
She's like,
I was sleeping. She's like, you're a bad guardian. It was funny, though, because he kept reminding me of Kubo from Madoka Magica, and I was just like, I don't trust him. But when he started talking and he's very, like, animated, I'm like, okay, maybe he might be okay. But I think Madoka just, like, ruined guardian cats for me forever. It's just like, don't trust him.
Yeah, the only one we trust is Artemis.
And Luna, the best cat.
Artemis is the best one.
Judgmental cat. Anyway, what you do at hip-hop this week?
Wait, aren't we supposed to be talking about Castlevania?
We are supposed to be talking about Castlevania.
I think that tells you how much you really liked Castlevania in the beginning. It's like, skip that. Let's talk about
Let's just get to the hip hop.
So, what did you not like about Castlevania?
All of the middle. I love the first episode. Like, I'm a huge Dracula fan. Like, I read Bram Stoker's Dracula when I was younger. Love that. Just that whole idea of his story and background. And so when I got into Castlevania, I knew nothing about it. So except that it was based on a video game.
So you have never played any of the games?
I've never played any of the games. I've heard about it. I knew it was like horror-ish. So I was going in just, like, completely fresh. So I was just like, I know it was a video game. I knew it was kind of based on horror. So I saw Dracula. I was like, I'm in, you know? Like, this is, like, I'm already interested. Like, I'm all the way in. And then, like, after the first episode, he's just gone. I'm like, wait, what's going on? And it was interesting to see, like, spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched. Then they kill his wife, and then he, like, puts a curse on the town. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like, where is this going? But then I just kind of got bored with it for the second and third episode. It's 4 episodes total. Yeah, I was just like, okay, like, what, like, why are we, like, I don't get it. Like, why are we watching? This is annoying. Like, it felt very, like, was it, like, bureaucratic almost? Just, like, it was, like, a lot of talking. I think that was it. It was just a lot of talking. And I'm like, I need more right now. And it might have not helped that I watched it late at night when I was about to go to sleep. And I think at that point I was just like, I don't really want to pay attention that much. I just kind of want to watch something to be entertained right now.
Did you like Simon Belmont, though?
I did.
Or is Trevor Belmont?
Trevor Belmont.
Sorry.
Yeah. He grew on me. At first I was just like, why? Who is this guy? Like, why is he here? Where's Dracula? But he was an interesting character, and I do like the dynamic between him and, I forgot her name.
Totally forgot her name.
Oh, man, I gotta look that up now. I can't get women's names. But yeah, so I enjoyed their, like, kind of banter. I love the fact that she's a mage. I think that's really cool. And then towards the end, I did pick up for me towards the end of the last episode, where you kind of see this team kind of building, because, you know, I love team build-ups.
Yeah.
And yeah, seeing, like,
that's why
the mage get together, and he exactly. So the mage, I guess
it's really just
Belmont be. He's a
ruffian.
That's really warrior.
He's a ruffian. That's what I'm gonna go with, because he's a jack of all trades. He has his whip, his main tool, but he's adept in fighting. He, like, that whole bar scene shows that he's more of just like a brute rather than.
That's true.
But he's a good strategist. Like, that whole final thing was like, all y'all with the spirits gonna go out the front. I'm gonna do the ice thing at the side. Like,
yeah, that was really cool too. But and then the Dracula's son.
Right.
I don't know he'd be either.
So
so it was really cool. I was like, all right, now, like, I feel some momentum, but then it was done.
Yeah. It's a weird 4 episodes. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's weird what they tried to do. So what's funny is I thought the first episode was meh.
Wait, sorry. The girl's name is Sypha? Sypha?
We're gonna go with Sypha.
Sypha.
So y'all can correct us in the comments.
Yep.
But I didn't really like the first episode as much. And I think so I have a little bit more Castlevania background than you, so I have an idea of who the Belmonts are. I've been playing Aria of Sorrow on the Game Boy Advance. And for me, I think this is what got to me. It's like, my understanding of Castlevania, I didn't get to play the NES versions or the Super Nintendo, which are way more like adventure games in terms of, like, you get to explore a town. In Castlevania 3, you explore a town. You do a lot more, like, world building stuff.
Okay.
No, 1 and 2 are more, or I think 1 is more of just like you're going level by level. The Super Nintendo one is still more level by level. They don't really hit the exploration of dungeon stuff until they get into, like, Symphony of the Night and so forth. If I'm missing a game, correct me. So, but when I finally played it, the key thing is this kind of dungeon exploration, and so that's what I'm going in on. Right. And you don't see any of that for the first 3 episodes. Oh yeah. So it's like all this world building, all of this. I'm just like, I get, and I get how you're trying to get sympathetic to Alucard. And they did that decently enough. I felt it felt very like textbook though. It's like, he gave a chance to a nice lady. The nice lady dies as the only representative of the human race that he ever, like. It feels very like, check that box, check that box, like. And they didn't feel like anything else to it. Yes, made the church look terrible. People, like, it's just very there. And I think that was kind of the piece that was just like, and I wasn't sold on Trevor the first time I met him as this kind of semi-drunk person and so forth. But I think as the episode, by the third or third episode, I was like, okay, I'm buying way more into this, where he's exploring the town a little bit, trying to find those group of people. I forgot what they call themselves. Do you remember what they call?
Oh, I don't remember.
But you see, all of that got me way more engaged. I think the other things that got to me is that the animation is still kind of wonky.
Really, I actually really like the animation.
Animation to me is kind of wonky.
Like the scenes with his whips are really cool. I thought. Like
I think some of them are good. I mean, I think the other stuff of like when they're trying to be like the B-level horror movie like Castlevania kind of known for, where you have like the intestines wrapped around.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. I was like, I get it. And I'm a squeamish person, so that should have made me scream, but it did not do that at all.
Yeah, it didn't do that for me. I'm also, well, I don't know if I would say squeamish. I guess I am a little bit squeamish, but I was expecting more cringy moments.
Right.
And I feel like I get more of that from Attack on Titan than I did from this, which shouldn't be a thing.
And so it's alright. It's so, like, I feel like they stick the landing at the end so strong that I'm ready for a second season.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I feel like this was just really a pilot 4 episode to be like, can we do this?
I think you're right. Yeah, it felt like a long pilot.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I said, I overall ended up liking it. And I'm ready for the second season, but there are a lot of stuff that's like, y'all need to fix that. Y'all need, like, there are pieces to be fixed.
What pieces do you think should be fixed?
The animation's number 1 on my list.
Yeah.
I think that's that, and I think I'm very curious of how, like, if they decided to, if this was 12 episodes, a typical thing, like, how would they have made that Dracula sympathetic thing not be rushed? Because that piece was very rushed, and and I'm wondering if I would feel better about that and feel more connected to him.
I think too, my thing with the show is I didn't realize that this would be a first season thing. I thought it was like a 4 episode like mini series kind of thing. Like this was we were gonna get the beginning, middle, and end. I think that's why the second and the third episode didn't make sense to me at first, because I'm thinking like, okay, they're spending a lot of time building this up. How is this gonna end? Like I feel like it was not that it was rushed or like they were gonna rush at the end, but like there isn't enough.
Right.
But when I got to the end, I was like, oh, this is just the beginning. So that now it makes a lot more sense.
Right.
Like I see why they did it, the pacing as they did.
Right. And I love the little bit of the dungeon stuff that you saw where the dungeon was falling apart while
right.
Like that's what I want so much.
That was really cool too, because I didn't realize it until afterwards, like when they were in the dungeon and like the walls are kind of coming through, and it was when someone mentioned like the video game, I didn't realize it felt like they're kind of paying like homage to that kind of a little bit like a side scroller, like when you kind of like having to jump to one thing and then jump to the next thing and they're coming at you, and then, so that was really cool. Like I think that was a really creative way to bring that in. Yeah,
but it's interesting of just like I've spoken to other people who are like way more familiar with the Castlevania IP than either of us, and they seem to love it. So I'm very curious for like those who have that background, what are the pieces that felt right for them? Because for us, just like as people who are a little bit more casual with it,
right,
there was issues with just how the story played out that we weren't as all the way in on.
And I did hear like a lot of people enjoying the Trevor Belmont background, because I don't think you really got that in the video game. So it's kind of like, you've been playing this guy for so long, it's actually nice to see his personality and his like character and like stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, overall it was decent.
Yeah,
I give it a B, I think.
I'm not going to give it a score.
Okay. So now we can talk about hip hop.
Now we can.
Yay!
Do you just want to get into the album? Because I feel like that's what you really want to do.
No, I have so many other things to talk about.
All right.
No, what did you listen to?
I've listened to a lot, but the only. All right, so I'm gonna ruin my surprise. My next major video, Due Diligence. This is a self plug. I've been doing this video series of older hip hop albums.
Awesome video series.
And my next one is AT Aliens. I have been listening to this album so much. Like I was supposed to be reviewing another album, but I could not do it because I've been so in love with this project. So I can't talk about it in this podcast because that deserves 20 minutes on its own. And
it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. And then, so as a result, the album that I was supposed to review, that probably will end up being happening eventually, but I'll give you a little bit of what I went through. It was Diggle Planet's first album, Reaching, a new refutation for time and space. And it's funny because it kind of feels like an album that's right? It's a mixture of low-end theory and aliens.
Interesting.
So, like, very much the rhyme schemes, rhyme patterns are really low-end theory. It's not that sophisticated. It's almost too predictable sometimes, and it gets a little bit annoying. And that's been something that got me sometimes when I listen to low-end theory in terms of just, like, the way that their flows work out. But they do this thing as if, like, these guys are coming from space to explore and live in New York City. So they kind of they have this kind of sociological look in New York City about, like, what it's like to be there and kind of thing. It kind of gives it a good sense of charm. And it's that kind of alien thing that, like, as I said, feels like your bar going, that feels some like pieces of AT aliens. So it's literally, the beats are all like super jazzy, relaxed out stuff that, as I said, could easily found low in theory, just not with the same bass line, but in terms of, like, it sounds like Tribe would be all over those beats. I could imagine Q-Tip rapping on every one of them easily. The three rappers are solid. Thus far, I'm still, like, sitting with it. None of them have, like, these super standout performances. There are a lot of really cool tracks and conceptual stuff, but I've been listening to that, but truthfully, I've been just listening to AT Aliens, and I don't want to ruin that video.
That's so cool. It's funny because I feel like most people with Digital Planets, all we know is, like, cool like that.
Right.
And we don't really go back to them as much for the whole, like, alternative hip-hop movement.
Right.
We go back to Tribe, we go back to De La Soul, but we don't really go back to Digital. So it's really cool that you did that.
Yeah, and it feels... I'm going to say something ridiculous and get myself kicked off. Thus far...
Oh my god, I know exactly what you're going to say. I should just leave right now.
I prefer a New Refutation over Low End Theory.
Madness. I don't even have to listen to the album to know that's ridiculous.
No, like... They both have the same issues flow-wise, but the stuff that's happening outside of it, like the context and stuff that goes around New Reputation, is more interesting to me than what happened on Low End. It's just what it is, okay?
I'm giving him side eyes right now.
Look, Tribe has 2 classic albums out of the 3 I really got to sit down with. It's called People's Instinctive Travels. That is a better album than Low End Theory, okay? And Midnight Marauders is an amazing classic album.
Goodbye. Speaking of classic albums, although I don't know if we're calling it a classic yet, but I do think Jay-Z's 444 is pretty dope. But I specifically want to talk about Moonlight, since the video just dropped Friday, actually, because it was the day you came. And I loved it. Like, at first I just saw the trailer, excuse me, for they redid the Friends theme with all, like, these young black actors who I feel like are all how do you say, like, not shifting the game, or like they're influencers.
But, like, years from now, those all guys are likely to be, like, legends of their own.
Easily, yeah. Like, you have Issa Rae, you have Lakeith Stanford, who's in Atlanta and he was in Get Out. You have Lil Ray and Carmichael and
Tessa
Thompson, your fave. Tiffany Haddish, who's, like, killing it in Girls Trip now. Like, all these people. And it's funny because I'm assuming this was recorded a while ago. Yeah. And to see how, even from when it was recorded till now, just how some of these people have already grown into, like, our public consciousness is pretty dope. Although I wonder now, because they didn't really use Tiffany as much, I wonder how much they would have used her if they knew how much...
Right.
How popular she would have been right now. But anyway. But I think the cool thing about it is, like, the whole song is kind of play on how La La Land, quote unquote, won Best Picture, and then it figured out that actually it was Moonlight that won, and it was like a mix up. And the song kind of talks about how, like, black artists struggling with not owning their masters, and I'm not sure if that's the same song, but I know in, like, an earlier track he talks about Prince and, like, the same thing, and, like, writing slave on his forehead and literally, like, not having his masters, like, his masters are with his masters or whatever. And I thought it was cool to kind of flip that and kind of take a show that's known for being very white
right.
and bringing on, like, these black faces, and they're kind of just, like, playing on that. And then for them to kind of, like, play on that when they have Hannibal Buress in there and saying, like, oh, like, this is terrible. Like, why are you guys doing this? Like, this is bad. Like, we're gonna do a Black Full House next. Like, and it's interesting, like, because I think it kind of plays into cultural appropriation, but then it's like, all right, opposite of cultural appropriation ish, where you have like these like Black actors redoing a white series, but then it's like, no, like we're better off doing our own thing, you know?
Right. I think two things came to mind, because when you showed it to me, I think I said to you about, I wondered if part of it is also that Moonlight is a film that is not, it is not a Black movie trying to be a white movie.
Right.
It is its very own thing, and I think that whole Hannibal Buress thing is like, you don't gotta do, you don't got to make Black versions of white art to be meaningful and valuable.
Agreed. Yeah, and Moonlight was very Black, I would say, like unapologetically Black, which was amazing. And then the other thing too, I think what drew me about the video is to see like Gerard Carmichael, I keep saying Carmichael, at some point, like after he has that conversation with Hannibal Buress, like behind the scenes, anyway, he's telling him he's terrible, he goes back, and then it seems like there's kind of like this veil lifted before his eyes, where he's like, what are we doing, kind of thing, and like, why am I here? And like there's an immediate shift, because before they're kind of doing like the regular sitcom kind of camera lenses, like those same angles you would see on Friends, like shot for shot, and then all of a sudden you get this really like close up of Gerard Carmichael.
Everything slows down.
Sound
starts fading out. And then the track actually starts playing.
Exactly. So yeah, and then like you kind of hear like the dialogue still going on in the background, like those like familiar like comedic beats and like the audience laughter, but like Gerard is clearly just like out of, like, he's like gone. He's like, he's checked out. And then Issa Rae leads him outside, and then he ends up going out, and it kind of reminded me of the Truman Show, because he goes out through a door, and then it's kind of like the, I guess, background set kind of stuff, just like set up things, and then he goes through another door, and it's like a beautiful like grass scene, and then like a big moon, full moon outside, and he just goes and sits on a bench and looks at the moon. And yeah, I thought it was short and powerful, and I'm happy that they actually made a full episode, well, not a full episode, but like a little short episode with these characters. It satisfied me.
I can tell.
So, yeah.
You were like, I have to watch this. But I was like, I'm on the bus.
I know,
like,
you know.
You don't need to rush me.
You know, I was hype about this. I actually went and made a Tidal account, because I was like, I can't wait for this to get on YouTube. I need to watch this now. Like, I need to know everything there is about this series that may or may not be happening. Like, what extent did he do? And I think it was perfect, because at first when I saw the trailer, or like when they redid the
Friends opening,
I was like, man, I want this TV show. But
you felt guilty for it.
I felt guilty, because then like I watched it and it was just like, oh really, just doing like Black characters redoing white TV shows, and I was like, damn, you right. So yeah, but I think the way they did it was better, because I think in my mind I wasn't really thinking of them redoing Friends. I was thinking of just a Friends-like series with these characters who that would be amazing.
Because I know the two things, like, hey, there's been a lot of flack to Friends about like, how you do an entire sitcom in New York and not have Black people.
Yeah, exactly.
You hear that, and then shout out to Dart Adams, the great. He talked about how essentially Friends is pretty much a white version of Living Single. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like,
definitely.
Why do we want? And also, I don't know if you watched.
Living Single came first.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the Logic video, Black Spider-Man.
No.
At the end of the clip, he has these two cats talking to each other. And the cat's like, yeah, man, we can make a Black Seinfeld. And another cat's like, we already have that. It's called Martin.
Exactly. I was thinking about that, because it's like, there's Girlfriends and Sex and the City. There's Seinfeld and Martin. Like, there's Living Single and Friends. It's like, yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind. Like, after our conversation, I was like,
yeah, those things are always put up in parallel against each other. It was interesting. But I love the video. I think what he did was perfect. Like, for them to recreate it and kind of show, give that message. That was dope.
And now we can talk about the Mutual album.
Yep. So we both listened to Propaganda's Crooked, which is super dope.
It is super dope. I got to give it to him. I don't think I told you. I saw a Prop in concert, I think about a year and a half ago.
No, you didn't tell me that. That's
so when Andy came to town, he had...
Andy Mineo.
Yeah. Prop came with him. And I'd been familiar with Prop. I had an understanding about, like, a little bit of his background, part of Tunnel Rats, which I think I've talked to you about, like, the old kind of East Coast, West Coast beef that happened in Christian hip-hop.
I remember that. That's hilarious on many levels.
And the funny thing, for those who don't know, it's entirely theological. Like, that's what this is. But I'm not going to get into that. But I have a little bit of understanding of Prop. But I've never... That concert was one of those things. My friend went with me, and it was first time seeing Andy, first time seeing Prop. He's like, Propaganda seems like a person I'd enjoy having a beer with.
Interesting.
But we were not all... I could tell, between he and I, we weren't, like, all in love with the music. I think he was probably performing stuff off of Crimson Chord, his previous album.
Okay.
But this is my first time sitting down with a full Prop record, beginning to end. Mm-hmm. I am entirely satisfied.
I am too. Like, this is the third project I've heard from Humble Beast, and I am very... Oh man, I'm forgetting words today. I guess just happy with it. Like, I'm thinking of, like, other collectives that I enjoy, like TDE.
Right.
And I think Humble Beast really is probably, like, second and coming for TDE. Like, no one's talking about it, but I really think, like, after, like, Show Baraka, you had Jackie Hill Perry, and now Propaganda, like, these albums, to me, match up.
They do, but these are... So, I have a bunch of quotes all over this album. Like, I don't know what stuck out for you, but... So, the concept of Crooked about, like, essentially we as people are entirely, like, not all right together. Mm-hmm. I've been seeing how that plays out in time the full album. So, like, lines that he talks about is like, I'll take a bullet for my wife, but sometimes I can't help but think about what's in between the legs of the lady beside me on my flight. Like how he's able to, like, check himself. Mm-hmm. Talks about, like, why do we got...
Sorry. Like, humility, hashtag, Dugan and Zinga.
Wow, that's a whole context that nobody's gonna get for now.
Yeah, sorry.
Shout out to Dr. Lewis if you're listening. So for him to be able to check himself about talking about, like, so many sociological things, like, there's a line where essentially it sounds like as if people are, the two classic lines, like, do you remember the Alamo? Kind of in this kind of patriotic sense, where it sounds like the flip of that is, like, a bunch of Native Americans like, yeah, we remember what you did. Like, it's been a lot of, like, those subversions. My favorite, Show Baraka shows up here, and, like, on the track Cynical. And the track Cynical has a lot to do with, like, the way that people, the Christian background can be, like, could kind of co-sign, like, yeah, we got to go against this 5%, the theology's not right, and be all of that. Right. But when it comes to issues of black issues, would be like turning shoulders and like... Show Baraka's opening line is like, I don't want your reconciliation, I want your gun. Pass your privilege and pass it on to my son. Like, that... like, he said that with so much conviction, and, like, it's so convinced. Like, there's so many bars all over this thing. It's like, you know who got no qualms with equal rights? Napalm. Like, when later in the record, Propaganda's talking about how that essentially blacks and minorities will be a part of the same war, so, and so therefore equal rights far and abroad doesn't really matter to them because we all die together. Like, even though y'all don't want us to be with you, man.
Yeah, that's the one thing I really loved about the album too, is he does talk about various things I think a lot of black people deal with, where you get, like, or at least, like, black Christians specifically, where you're dealing with, like, 5%ers who are very much against, like, ideas of Christianity sometimes, and then, like, gentrification he also touches on. It is really interesting stuff. Like, I don't think I've ever heard much rappers talk about it, much less a Christian rapper.
Yeah, and then like, the way he goes towards ending this album, he has this line where it's like, it's not working. So he talks about, like, this activist, like, trying to make all this change, and then he asks, essentially, he's like, even with all this work that you're doing, are you really that satisfied? And ultimately the answer is likely no.
Right.
And it's like I guess I think this album's just like relevant to where we are now. It's like for a lot of us, we find a lot of significance and value in fighting for, I guess, the resistance, so to speak. He calls that in his podcast. Shout outs to the Red Couch podcast, amazing podcast that he does with his wife. But it's like in many ways, it's a noble fight. It's a thing that like you can tell throughout this album, like gnaws at propaganda. But it's like, even if we did fix all of this, we would not be satisfied. And it's like, that's something I don't think any activist would ever say, like, explicitly.
Yeah, because, like, you still need Jesus.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think for me, too, another takeaway for me, a big takeaway for me, was the idea of how there was song part 1, Slow Cook part 1, where it feels very specific for, like, if you are a Christian but also a hip hop head,
very much
where like
hip hop
you
head
love hip hop, yeah, and it's like a lot of the feel of the album is really like straight for like hip hop heads, like almost backpacker, not fully backpacker, but like
it's very boom bap.
It's very boom bap, yeah. And there's like things where he's talking about like he's trying to fight like not write diss tracks. There was something else here, just like talking about like the kind of hip hop we love, and like that's the hip hop I fell in love with, and like struggling to listen to it, but it's like you love it so much, but even though it can be so bad as far as like immoral, but it's what we love. It's what we love. Yeah, it's like tainted love, mixed messages, curses and blesses.
Yeah, like this album. I mean, we haven't even talked about Darky yet.
Yeah, or I love Cats. Wait, no, I hate Cats. Yes. Oh my god. Yeah. I Hate Cats is the funniest track ever. He's basically like, it's almost like a comedy track.
It is, and I think this is so one of the things that always made me question whether or not I love a full prop album is that you can tell that he has his spoken word background.
Okay.
So he weaves that a lot into his flows, and sometimes that feels right, sometimes we'd be like, not in the mood to hear that, in terms of that flow-wise. But I Hate Cats is such a great concept.
It is. So basically, he's like, he goes on, he starts talking about how much, like, he hates cats, and it sounds like he's talking about, like, the animal, like, cats, like, man, like, they're just, they look evil, and blah, 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 blah.
Right, because people, and the funny thing for me is, like, I've been around people who don't like cats, so,
right.
like, everything that he says for, like, the first minute is almost play for play the stuff I've heard in my life.
Right, exactly, like, they are just mischievous, and they're just, like, terrible, and, yeah, easily, but then as you start to keep listening, you kind of start to realize, like, wait, he's not just talking about cats, or he's not talking about cats, he's talking about black people, and kind of like what people say about us.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think where it switches up. Let's see.
Like, there are good, I guess, tell signs. Like, he's like, there's this point where he's just like, ain't cats in the White House? Isn't that enough? There's that.
Right.
Like, by the time I think then the whole veil has been broken. What?
I agree. Yeah, I'm looking now. There's like, oh, what am I gonna do? Like, if my daughter brings home a cat,
Right. It's like, it looked weird walking with a cat down the street, and he's like, wait. I mean, it would look weird. I mean, you start realizing what that means. Exactly,
and it's like, then they're gonna think I didn't raise her right, 'cause she's walking this cat down the street, and that's weird. But then you're like, wait, no, this isn't actually cat. Right. It's like, yeah, it's really clever. I think that song is what's partially sold me on the album, because I think you sent me this first.
Yes.
And then I somehow, like, Darky came on right afterwards on YouTube, and I was just like, oh, I like this too. Like, I need to listen to this full project. So yeah, so now I guess we can talk about Darky.
Yeah, so I said something, and I'm going to have to sit down and think about this, but I'm going to throw it out into the ether because people need to think about it going forward.
You're saying two controversial things in this podcast today, by the way. Just want to point that out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to save this one then, because I don't need to get killed twice.
No, I mean, you have to say it.
So, I keep forgetting the name of the track with
Complexion
with Kendrick and Rhapsody. Great track. I would say the concept was done better here. A lot of it has to do with how strong Propaganda's verse is in comparison to what I think of how solid Kendrick's verse is. Prop has lines like I used to wish I was Puerto Rican because that type of black was exotic.
That was good. It did, like, it felt like it it captured a very specific emotion that a lot of people have.
Right. There's that. There's like, I knew that was great because X-Men taught me that much. Like, and then you have Jackie started saying things like, people tell me to quiet my melanin. And then they're essentially people saying that I got the ones with schemes, but they're the ones with the master scheme. Like,
right.
That track is incredible.
It is. It is really great. Like, I love Jackie. You already know how much I love Jackie. We talked about her album, The Art of Joy, a few podcasts back. And, yeah, like, I do think the way this is done is really well. Like, they do touch on things that are a lot more, like, close to home.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, like, yeah, like, quiet your melanin. Like, that is just, like, a really clever phrase. And I feel like I have to go back to the complexion because it's been a while to fully, like, compare and make an assessment on that.
Right, I'm going to think about it a little bit more, but that's where I ended up thinking. I'm just like, both conceptually go with the same idea.
Right, of skin color and how, like, we view it and how we feel about it and what we've been taught about it.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's really interesting. I think this is a really great concept.
So I'm going to pretty much go as this. Like, if you love old school hip-hop and any, like, even a remote idea, you should listen to this album.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a listen for any golden age hip-hop lovers. Or just hip-hop lovers.
Yeah, that's what it says. Like,
yeah.
I would also go as far as, like, in case you don't want it, you can stream it, it's there, but I think that if I don't know if I really want to go out of my way to buy this album. Humble Beast is notoriously known for, like, one of their mottos is freely given. So for a lot of their albums, they give them out for free that you can download, so you can taste before you buy.
Right.
I mean, I know in this age of Yarhar, people don't even...
Yar.
Yeah, don't... Just think about what Yarhar means. Anyways, you don't have to do that here.
Right. And then I think you can also stream it on, on Spotify and everything else. And I think Bandcamp also, or no?
I don't think Bandcamp.
No? Okay. Well, definitely Spotify. So, you can... If you don't want to commit to downloading it for free, you can also just stream it also. Right. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about our theme of the week. And I guess we hinted at it earlier. I guess we can give people some context, right?
Yeah, definitely. So if you've heard my random outburst, I was talking about Ndugu Nzinga, which is a year, I guess it happens every year and a half, a rites of passage for a select group of people that was, I'm not sure who started it, but one of our old professors has continued the tradition and kind of enlisting a group of people every year and a half to kind of go on this journey to go through a list of 5 virtues. What is it?
5 principles.
5 principles.
Which is humility, forgiveness, nurturing, wisdom, spirituality. Right. So... And it's Afrocentric in nature and what it's trying to be communicated.
Right. And, so then we went to the very beautiful ceremony yesterday, which is the final unveiling to reveal who these people are. They've gone through this huge transformation throughout this year and a half. They get new names, and yeah, I guess I don't know how else.
Right.
Did we say everything?
I think we at least captured what that's about, and I think for you and I, we were very much a lot of that conversation is about we will remember the traditions of those who came before us, and this idea of like, what are traditions, what are we holding up, and what comes with those things. Right. And we thought talking about traditions felt like a natural theme for where we are.
Yeah, definitely. So our theme of the week is tradition.
And I think for me, I think about, in nerddom, the first thing that comes to mind is the tradition of like platformers. So I've said this statement once before. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, where like I feel like Super Mario is like the Citizen Kane of gaming in a sense, and not in the sense of like most grand importance, but it's like the way that I understand the way it describes Citizen Kane is not just like this is a great movie, but it's like certain techniques were used, certain ways of communicating. Like it felt like the way that I hear it, it's like it's when film was kind of becoming its own medium and what it is all about. So therefore, I would say like Super Mario seems to be like a lot of that for gaming. It's not the only game that does that. You could go back earlier, Pong, whatever. But I think there's this, when you look from 85, 86, I'm trying to remember when the original Super Mario Brothers came out, and you're talking all the way down to 1996 by the time we're making our first jump into 3D. Like everything was a side scroller.
Right.
The way that you design levels was all in that. Castlevania was a side scroller. Mega Man was a side scroller.
Right.
Like you had beat 'em ups that were side scrollers. You had platforms that, like everything that you could do, with probably the exception of RPGs,
Right.
was a side scroller. And I think at times now when anything looks kind of 2D and people are just like, why are you playing that game? Why do you want to do that? Like, and certain franchises have not made a jump to 3D. Like Kirby has not really made a jump to 3D. Yeah. It hasn't. Even games that came out a few years ago, like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, people are like use words like it's not ambitious, it's not innovative, and whatever. And a lot of it is very superficial but a lot of it has to do with, like, I always look at these games of like, these guys are following a line of heritage, and it's not that we should deviate from that. It's not that we don't need 3D. We don't, like, it's important that we have these other branches that exist.
Right.
But why should we leave what was like such a significant part of the culture, and then just be like, oh, if you do anything that's remotely close like that, you're not unambitious,
Right?
Because
it's just paying homage to what came before you, almost, like, or like continuing that legacy,
right? And
wanting to, like, I'm sure like a lot of these creators, they played that game and said, I want to make something like this because this spoke to me,
right? And you can do new things with it. Like,
right.
People are still like. That's the thing that gets to me. It's like, it's not these games are just like, it's exactly Mario.
Right.
It's not Super Mario World in HD. We're done here. We didn't do anything. We just, the exact same levels, exact same, like, we're done. I got nothing.
Yeah, they're still elevating the genre.
Right.
It's just,
But it's this reverence for what has come before that I think that it feels important, and sometimes I feel like in video games, as much as that we can love old games, we get very, like, snobbish about, like, did this really innovate? It's just like, sometimes it's not, like, if the quality is there and you can tell that they designed something meaningful,
right.
It's not always going to be like this. This is a huge open world experience with Western stories and, like, deep moral dilemmas and with hour-long cutscenes. Like, it doesn't have to be that.
I mean, you need hour-long cutscenes. That's just facts.
But that's one of the things that came to mind about tradition and nerddom. What about for you?
For me, for some reason, the first thing that came to mind was Miyazaki and specifically Spirited Away. I thought of how when the main character, is Shinto, I think, is introduced to the world, there are these kind of traditions set in place where you have, like, the main lady, man, I'm forgetting everybody's names today, who kind of, like, enslaves people and takes their names, and, like, you have to work for her, and you have, like, people who, like, the bathhouse people, and they kind of have this, schedule that they stick to, and kind of, like, this is what we do every day, and everyone kind of has their place, and, like, this is what we do every day, this is what, like, this is my job, this is her job, this is their job, like, this is the system we have. And I think what the cool thing was, even after she leaves, the main character, spoiler alert,
lots of spoilers today from the one who hates them.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, I mean, this movie came out in 2001, so hopefully.
Man, making excuses.
Hopefully. I know, I'm the one who's like...
y'all can spoil all of One Piece now. One Piece has been out for how long?
Not since 2001. No. But, I mean, once I said Spirited Away, I feel like that was... You could have stopped listening there. But yeah, so... Then, but yeah, it still felt like these things will still very much be in place after she leaves, even though she probably shook up that whole area or that whole world, because she definitely made an impact, but it felt like she didn't change the world. It was just like, oh, like, that thing happened in that year, and that was really cool, but things are still going to remain the same even after she leaves. And I think it was interesting just to see, like, oh, that world is always going to remain as is, and, like, those traditions are going to pass down and things like that. So that was really cool.
That's neat. And then we started thinking about it for hip-hop. I thought about one person who I think is, like, he's a walking tradition, and that's Big Crit.
Yes. I mean, Southern people.
Right.
It's mad tradition.
It's been interesting. So I have a friend of mine, shout outs to Art. He's a huge Big Crit fan, and had a conversation with him the other day, and I was trying to go back through old Big Crit projects because I was like, I don't love Big Crit. I always wonder why. Because for him, for art, Big Crit's like one of his favorite rappers all time.
Yeah, I wanted to love Crit too. I went to his concert because I thought maybe that would like bring about more love for him, and I did enjoy it a lot. But I still didn't like fall in love with it.
Right. And what I always admire about Crit is like Crit is like if hip hop was like a literal family tree, he is all the Southern artists in one.
Yes.
And pick one, he is it.
Proudly.
Like exactly, proudly. His beats and so forth is very much UGK influence all over. Yeah. His rhyme style and stuff, you could tell that he was studying Outkast, studying Big Boy, studying Andre. The kind of spirituality of like Goody Mob, all like.
I mean, his stuff is called Cadillactica. Like, if that's not the most Southern thing, I don't know. The most, yeah.
Talking about like his range of like his entire range of what he'll do. The only one that I don't really like. It's hard to follow the family tree. Like I could see part of it in Scarface, but I think they feel like different people enough.
Yeah.
But I would say like Crit literally sounds like all these guys, 8 Ball and MJG, like he can make a song like any one of those guys, and he has already.
Right.
And I love that. I remember there was a debate a while ago that people say like the reason why Big Crit's not popular is that he sounds like the old South and not the new South. And that broke my heart, as if to kind of like he has to be doing these deep trap records and so forth. I was like, why is that the solution here for his popularity?
That's interesting because I never heard that before, and it's interesting to me too because I wonder if we I don't know if maybe not, because I feel like people say that a lot about Joey Badass, where he feels like old New York. But they say it in a good way. Right. But then again, Joey Badass isn't as popular as other artists, I would say. Right. But he is still, I think he's bigger than Big Crit, though.
Yeah, I think he's bigger than Big Crit. I also think with Joey is that, and with as much as the South has like dominated hip hop since 1999 to now in terms of like mainstream perspective. Yeah, I think
since Nellyville took over. Sorry, go ahead.
I hate you right now.
Mission accomplished. Go ahead.
Anyways, I think there's a lack of reverence for old Southern music the way that there is a reverence for old New York music. Mm-hmm. I think that's really it, because I don't know anybody, as much as I know people have a respect for Juicy J and whatever, and like for a lot of what's come afterwards. I'm like, I don't know anyone who's listened to the old 8 Ball MJG records. I don't know anyone who's listened to old UGK. I don't know, like, among my age group. And you'd think that for people who are like, the South is the most important thing that's ever happened, like, you're not talking about these guys who, like, created the South, so to speak.
Yeah, even when we watched the documentary, Organized Noise, yeah. We think we learned so much. Even they were like an untold story, so I think there's a lot in the South. Like, I think people talk about DJ Premier more than they talk about Organized Noise in certain circles. Yeah, which is interesting. Yeah,
and I think it also goes back to this. I don't want to say problem, but I think also has a lot to do with Outkast's peak is Stankonia. Like Stankonia onwards is what Outkast like on a mainstream level is. Like Stankonia, Speakerbox, Love Below are the most like important Outkast albums on a mainstream perspective. Yeah. But but as far as I'm concerned, Aliens and Aquemini is way more. Mm-hmm. But depending on the circles you run with, depending on that, I just don't think that the reverence for anything pre-Stankonia beyond probably Outkast is particularly strong. The way that it is for like early Nas, early J, early Woot, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
But yeah, Crit is an embodiment of all Southern artists at once. And as much as I don't necessarily love his records the way that I know other people do, I respect and I appreciate some of his records. Return of Forever, I think, is the second project. That's a great project.
Cool. For me, I think the first thing I thought of was, it feels like a theme in a lot of songs lately has been kind of addressing this there feels like there's been kind of a break between hip-hop lineages.
Yep.
Where, and feels like there's some need to, like, bridge it back together, or kind of, like, piece it back together. And that made me think of Kendrick's DNA, where I think he kind of talks about kind of having, like, not just, like, having, like, Black kings and queens in his background, but also, like, these hip-hop kings and queens that came before him, like, whether in Compton or just, like, OGs who've kind of paved the way for him to come through now, where he's like, I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA. I think that's partly what he's talking about, where it's like, I have these great hip-hop greats that came before me that more or less gave birth to me to be where I am now.
Does he get to name drop any of them?
Does he name drop anybody?
Because I could see some of that, and I think he's actively done that. Like, you have MCH showing up on Good Kid, Mad City.
Yeah, like he shows love to a lot of...
Like, Snoop showed up on To Pimp a Butterfly. Like, he's very deliberate about giving these guys...
He gave a shout out to Glasses Malone in The Heart Part 4 also, who's like OG Compton rapper.
Right, so I think that to a certain extent it's clear that he has done so, but I don't think DNA is all the way in on that. Like, I could see the connection. Yeah.
Well, so I think part of it for me is he plays that clip with Rivera from Fox News, where he's like, hip hop is thing, and I think that's what made the connection for me. Which I like, maybe that's part of what he's talking about also in this song. Like, hip hop has done worse for the Black community than, like, whatever racism, whatever he said.
I can totally see that. In fact, I think you and I had a conversation about that Rivera talking point sounds so much like Pac's talking point on Strictly 4.
Yeah, we were talking about that too. Like, after you did your due diligence for Strictly for My Niggas, that... Yeah, Kendrick, I went back to listen to Damn, and I realized just how much there were similar elements in there. No pun intended. But yeah, like, Triple X, I think, specifically gave me pure Holla If You Hear Me. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, you know, if somebody takes my son, that means somebody's getting done, or something like that. And it's very much like Tupac, like, yeah, like, we about to go gangbang on these dudes. Like, they not taking one of us down. Like, they take one of us down, they got to take all of us down, kind of. So that's
him invoking a tradition of itself.
Right, like, that too. Yeah, because, I mean, he clearly has Tupac influence. Like, it's all over his whole career. Yeah, so he clearly, like, draws from, like, even, like, Dr. Dre, Tupac, like, definitely.
Right. He's been very deliberate about making sure that these Western artists show up in his projects or be integral elements of who he is.
Right, and I think, like, creating or fostering this hip-hop family as well.
Right.
And even, like, in Control, where he's like, I got love for y'all, but, like, I'm trying to murder y'all, you know, like, even that, like, he's like, I love this game, I love this, and I want to foster this community. And then it also reminded me of Jay-Z's recent Family Feud. You know, you hear about his thing with, like, Kanye, and, you know, all these other things, but he's like, nobody wins when the family feuds. And it's also, like, him and Beyonce, too. And they're, like, their issues they were having, but I think he dedicates a verse to that, and how he, like, kind of blames their issues for Beyonce losing her first child, but then also later on you get, like, him talking about, like, hip-hop and, like, all these issues, like, where they're having within the community, and it's like, we're not winning because we're not fighting together, and, like, we should be, like, and I mean, and part of it is, like, commercial for Tidal, I think, but it's also just, like...
You don't say Jay-Z in commercials! Who would have thought that's a part of his MO?
But yeah, no, and I think... But it is so just, like, we need to, like, you know, like, reclaim our work, you know, reclaim our culture. Sign up on Tidal. Yeah. Well, yeah, but then
talk about Jay-Z Black... Trying to package a tradition for sale.
But it's a genuine thing. I think it is part genuine, where it's like, it actually does make sense.
I'm mad at it. I'm just saying it's always going to be Jay-Z doing something like that.
I mean, that's why he's the GOAT, right?
Moving on.
So yeah. So then our what question this week,
or second to last, because we do have to go through people's answers soon.
Oh, we have answers?
We have a bunch. You forgot?
You guys gave us answers.
We got answers.
We have answers. Oh, man, we got the answers. Thanks, Sway.
But we're going to ask the what question first.
Okay, so our what question this week is, or this month, is what tradition from hip-hop or nerddom do you use in your life? So, what do you use?
I think I don't use it as often as I used to. And this is going to be the weirdest thing I set up because anybody who knows Golden Boy is be like, you watched Golden Boy? Yes, I did. And the thing that I took from Golden... There's a lot of stuff I took from Golden Boy, but the thing that I remember, like, for about 3-4 years I picked up was just, like, his habit of note-taking. Of, like, for everything that was happening in his life, he made deliberate notes and was being very, like, this is what this person said, this is what they described, and, like, what ends up happening with the character a lot is that people make up... He has a bad first foot about, like... Is he this hyper perverted person? Is this hyper terrible person? And then you find out that he has his heart of gold because he really pays attention to people around him and makes so he takes these notes about who people are, what they want, and then he acts on it. And that it usually end the episode to be like people still wanting him around, but he's a traveler at heart. So it's like that note taking to learn about people and be very conscious about things going on around you. Right. For a while, I did a heavy version of that, and that's probably one of the first like real deliberate tradition. What I would call it somewhat like a tradition or action I tried to take and implement.
That's cool, interesting. So I think for me, I thought of South Korean dramas, mostly centered around food. I think.
You don't say.
I know, food is life. Because South Korean dramas, you see them eating food a lot, and me, after watching it for a while, of course, you get interested in the food. Like, oh, I want to try that. That looks amazing. And wanting to, like, make sure I was being respectful of those traditions or of those, like, ways that you're supposed to kind of partake in foods.
Not being a culture vulture.
Not being a culture vulture. I wanted to show appreciation and, like, do it right. Respect. Value. Exactly. And also just like even like little things, like I don't know if this is exactly falls into it, but like in dramas, like when they drink soju, like they always kind of like do this noise right afterward because it kind of burns your throat. Soju is basically a vodka made from sweet potatoes instead of white potatoes. I think that's correct. So it kind of burns your throat a bit, and people kind of do this noise where it's like. And no, I mean I naturally didn't do it, and then I was like, wait, should I be doing this? Because like that's always what happens, and it did like help a little bit, like to like quell the sting, and I was like, I guess that's why they do it. So now I do it, and like I think that's part of like a natural tradition that I was just like I'm gonna partake in. But yeah, all food related.
No, it reminds me for a while that people took the whole itadakimasu.
Right, that too. Yeah.
From Naruto for a minute. And I don't know how deliberate people were about that besides because sometimes with Naruto people just be like, I'm just going to run with my hands this way or whatever.
Basically, yeah. Like, yeah. It's cool. I want to do it.
Right. Which sometimes that ain't bad.
Yeah. I think so too.
But so those are answers are what questions. What we're going to do, what we have for the longest time. Yeah. Are answers to previous questions. You guys came up and showed up this time.
Facts.
So we're actually coming to the end of summer, but we asked, what hip-hop album reminds you of someone? I got a couple of answers, and then we have some nerddom answers somewhere. We're going to find the nerddom one soon.
I think they're on my Instagram.
I think it's on your Instagram. But here are the answers I got. The first answer is from Aja. She says, easy. Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City. Reminds me of my summers during high school years when my friends and I were up to no good. And then we have good friend Michael. He says, Be by Common. What a sunny album that is.
That is true. Even the album cover is sunny.
It is.
Very nice. So I got the Yellow album by Dom Kennedy, which is... I love Dom Kennedy. Like, his whole vibe feels like summer to me. I think he's from Cali. Yeah, someone said, honestly, there haven't been many 2 albums that remind me of summer. It's usually just certain songs. Even historically, there aren't really summer albums, just songs. Someone else put 2 Speaker Box, Below, and The Love Below, and The Chronic, which are really good choices. I think I agree with that. Cruel Summer. My friend Donald put. Someone obviously put Fresh Prince, DJ Jazzy Jeff, Summertime.
Right. I think we tried to exclude that because I feel it's too obvious.
Way too obvious, but we'll take it because clearly that is obviously all summer. Yeah, someone's like in The Chronic, which, yeah. And
when I ended up getting nerd answers, I got one from Honeybee. She says, Summer Wars the movie, which I have not seen yet. And then she tells me I have to make sure I have to watch it. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen that either.
We might actually try to fit that in before I skedaddle out of here.
I'm down.
And I think that's another episode in the books, is it, Zura?
Yes, it is, Zura.
In case y'all don't know, y'all should watch Princess Tutu to figure out why we call each other Zura.
Yes. It is the newest obsession.
It really has. It's invaded our language so much.
So much. Princess Tutu is amazing. But yeah, thank you guys again for listening.
Yes, so if you want to answer our question of the week about tradition, you can hit us up on Twitter. Use the hashtag NerdsOnHipHop.
Yep.
You can email us at nerdsandhiphop@gmail.com.
Yep.
Or if you just want to spoil some One Piece for my amazing Zura.
No.
You can just hit her up on which social media? Miss Old School on Twitter and Instagram.
You can get blocked from at Miss Old School with a K.
So maybe you don't lead with spoiling.
Where can they find you?
The Wolves Den 25 on Twitter and Instagram.
Yay. And also, I just want to add, can subscribe to us on iTunes.
Yes, please. Drop a review.
Yeah.
It helps us so much.
Or YouTube, Podcast Addict, wherever you're listening to this. Review us, rate, comment, like.
Share.
And
we're on Facebook.
Yes, we are on Facebook now.
We are going to be trying to exploring some live streaming and things like that for whenever we visit each other in the cities.
Whee!
In case you don't know, and I'll apologize, you don't always get amazing voice qualities because one of us is in Baltimore and the other is in New York.
Exactly.
She's the awesome one in New York, and I'm just a cool one in Baltimore.
Mad cool.
We're grateful for your time. We appreciate you spent some time with us today.
Mm-hmm.
And
thanks for listening.
Sayonara, son.
Bye.